I met Bob, I've known about Bob and the Superhome movement for a good few years, probably 6 or 7 years. I came across Bob first, but it's only in the last month or two that I've gotten to know Bob a bit better and what you guys are doing with the Superhome movement. I also learned, I guess, in the last couple of months that Bob is a bit of a gambler. He's had to put an Irish quantity surveyor up in front of you, so he must be a gambler. Anyway, what we've done is we've developed a piece of software, VQuest, to try and respond to reducing carbon in construction or in construction design. As Bob was saying, there may not be a huge amount of information out there or knowledge that there's a bit of a change coming in the legislation for building compliance and the way we build. The biggest thing is that from next year, 2024, there's a roadmap after being released that's going to show that MBIE are going to roll out legislation that's going to change the way we build forever. It's going to start with calculating carbon. So when you submit a building consent, whether it's a house or an industrial unit or a commercial unit, it's going to require at bare minimum a calculation of the carbon that's in that building. Now typically, the tools that are out there or the tools that are being developed are there to tell you how much carbon is in your building, but you need enough information to actually feed into it to calculate that carbon. And that level of information only typically comes at the end of your design. So it's too late at that point to actually do anything about it. So that calculation of carbon can only be short term. There has to be something else going behind it that pushes it along. And that's potential penalties or incentivization schemes. So by 2024, you're going to have to calculate your carbon. By 2025, that incentivization penalization is going to be in place. So if you go over a carbon threshold for your building, you're potentially going to be in trouble with it when you go for consent. So we need tools that are going to tell us at a much earlier stage of design how you reduce carbon in your design. So what we've developed is VQuest, and what VQuest does is it plugs into ArchiCAD, Revit and SketchUp, the three main softwares that are used by designers here in New Zealand. So that's engineers, architectural technicians and architects. And what it does is it gives instant feedback as you're designing. From the very earliest stage of design through assemblies or through composites, it'll give you insights into cost, carbon and building weight, so that you can actually, as you move through your design stages, do an analysis of it, and it'll give you feedback of what alternative materials you should be investigating, and it'll give a comparative analysis of how they come out from a carbon and cost perspective. What that does is it gives you a mechanism to not just reduce your carbon, but do it in achievable ways. Because we've got schemes out there that say you have to be as sustainable as possible. We've got the Superhome, which basically says basic, better, best. So it's giving you a couple of options. That's what we need. We need something that's achievable, not something that's going to say it's all or nothing. You have to be sustainable, or you can't afford it. So what we're doing with VQuest is effectively giving that mechanism where you can actually investigate your design stage by stage and reduce your carbon in achievable ways. We have a great case study over there for a development above in the North Island. We had a developer came to us who had a fully designed building, and they had designed it traditionally with a steel frame, concrete foundations, concrete upper floors and tilt panel walls. And they came to us and said, we're ready to submit for consent, but we're potentially building more of these in the future, so we want to run it through VQuest and see how we could have optimized that design. We did that for them in 24 hours. It's even quicker if an architect is doing it as they work. Within 24 hours, we were able to tell them they should have designed that building with a structural steel frame and CLT floors and lightweight timber framing external walls and CLT walls. They would have been storing negative 13,500 carbon in their building compared to what they were emitting, which was about 405,000 kg per building. We were building 5 of these buildings. So about just shy of 2 million that they were going to be emitting into the atmosphere with these builds. We were actually reducing or effectively taking carbon out of the environment. And we also showed them that it had been cost neutral if they had actually designed it that way from the very beginning. And we showed them that they reduced their weight by 2/3. So 2/3 of the weight of the building was removed with the advice that came out of our software. They came back and said, that's fantastic, but it's too late. We can't do anything about it. We're about ready to submit for consent. So we will do this in future. And we said to them, listen, look, this is why we look at building mass, because these are opportunities that are being missed. Could have reduced your carbon and been cost neutral, you're just missing opportunities. So we showed them basically that 2/3 reduction, go talk to your engineer. Their engineer came back and said, with that kind of a reduction in weight, we can actually get rid of the 16-metre deep piles underneath the building, and we can go 2 stories higher with the existing foundations. So straight away, they pulled that design. They never submitted consent. They went back and redesigned it as a hybrid build, and they're now in the middle of construction, carbon negative, and they saved money because they had saved it on their piles, and they were effectively cost neutral otherwise. So look, what we're doing effectively is informing architects and engineers and showing them that there's ways of optimizing design and there's opportunities being missed left, right and centre in what they're designing. We're just highlighting those. Don't need legislation to do that, we're missing opportunities right now. So that's what VQuest does. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Barry.